Alright, so my fourth final servo, which has taken about 2 months to get here thanks to COVID shipments. So it finally arrived, and it means I get to take this thing out. So I'm going to do a quick demonstration of how you get the G-seat out really quickly. And then we'll get to work on actually building the mechanics, because I haven't done for the bottom the mechanics, so you can see how it all goes together. So splice the video together, give you guys an idea of what's involved. But yeah, super easy. So everything else is bloody hard, but getting it in and out and doing the mechanics isn't too bad. So I've removed some of the bolts, so I'll just take another one off. Basically just got a couple of bolts holding the seat onto the frame. Got these cool little clips. So undo that, undo that. I've just wrapped tape around these so I know which side's which. So I'll take those off. Take those off. Technically you could undo the cables if you wanted to, but we won't worry for this. It's just going straight back in. Get out the road. As I have been playing with the seat harness, that's going to go with it. So we'll just make sure we're not going to take anything else on the way. And then that's as simple as grab the right carry. Find out. There we go. And we're out. Just be super careful not to pinch the cable. So, just one outside, and then we can get to work on it. So, yeah, that gets all nice and open. And what we're going to do, so we'll take this up. So here's the whoops, there we go, steer this up a little bit. So here's the underside of the mechanics. So we've got servo, gearbox, pinion, 2 idlers, then we've got the main pulley, goes through the shaft, onto this, our push rod, oops, moving around, and then the bearings at the end. So what we've got to do to get this all assembled, it's fairly straightforward except for the shaft. So I've got to drill, or not through the shaft, but here's an example of it, because I was reusing this particular shaft. There's a hole about 3 or 4 mil deep. So you've got to put for those two. And under in here there's 2 grub screws, again 90 degrees each. Because a standard, just touching the edge of the shaft, that's not going to work. That's going to spin in 2 seconds flat. So you need those grub screw locating holes to keep both the push rod and the gear or belt pulley sitting on the shaft and not moving. So let's get to it. I'll take some clips as we go. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like, and that's what it currently looks like. A little bit bare. This isn't the final resting place for the belts. That was just for my testing purposes. I'll take those off. So first order of business, measure up and cut some shaft. Make sure it's the right length. I'll actually do a little bit oversize. And then get some grub screw locating holes in there. So yeah, shouldn't take too long. Okay. Alright, so first order of business, I need to, got my lovely little shaft here, need to measure a length of it. So it's going to go from here through a hole, through back to the other side. So I need a little bit coming out. And I need to also mark the position where the push rod arm is going to sit on the shaft. So I'd like to do that all in one go. Now, rule in my workshop, well, be accurate where it counts and be fast where it doesn't. So, because otherwise the shit would take forever. I'm not feeling like it is right now. Downsides if you screw the rule up though, sometimes you have to compensate where you've made things slightly wrong. And I did that on the back. So you can see here, I've got this little 4-bolt pattern. That's actually where this thing mounts on. Originally it wasn't offset like that, but because on the back I put the mounting hole somewhere and had the holes in the shaft somewhere else, I didn't really want to make a new shaft, so I thought, screw it, I'll just offset the bolt hole here. Hey, it works, don't judge me. So I'll get that bolted up and then we'll measure stuff up. So we're only pulling this shaft in and out, hopefully only a handful of times. So let's get it on. So the hole's originally laser cut and then I've just chamfered the other side. So make a decision whether we want that way or that way. I think that way is probably going to be the go. Gives me a bit of clearance between the home stop and here. It's about the right place, so let's do that, shall we? So, a few granddads, or grandmas in that case maybe, have ever told you, don't tighten up the first hole, the first bolt. Always do things in a little bit of a crisscross pattern, so get them all snug up a little bit. Get the other two in there, and then tighten it. You don't really have to put nuts on the end of this, it's tight enough as it is, and it's only going in compression, so nothing actually pulls that. So you can just rely on that, those tiny little plastic threads holding it in place. It's proven good enough for the back. So now we've got that there, and let's go forth and measure our shaft. So we'll put that through. Now, to make the internet feel happier, I'll do some rough measurement here. So at least we'll make it into round numbers. It should be better for everybody's sanity. So I've got that. So let's give us a bit of length to play with. So that's probably going to be about 380, give or take. 380 sounds reasonable. So we'll do it at 380. Off camera, you just have to. Sure, okay. Now, again, it's not perfect. I wouldn't use a Vivid, or a Sharpie, depending on your country. New Zealand we call it Vivids. North America I believe is Sharpie. Europe not sure. UK not sure, but one of those things. Normally you use a metal scribe, but not for this. And I'll just double check what kind of offset I've got going on. Is that 10 mil? Right, 8 mil. To be safe. So we'll run that through. Oh, yeah, that's the. So this doesn't have to be exactly bang on. It can be a couple of mils either way, because the push rod arms, they don't have to be exactly perpendicular. It's not the end of the world, and we can adjust everything afterwards. So if that's going to be there, that's going to be there. And our push rod arm, we'll go grab one. Got one printed up somewhere. Printed up. There we go. There's one printed up. Now, I had a bit of a scary incident yesterday and I thought I broke my printer, which wasn't the case. So, but luckily, I've got this new design and I've got one of the old designs, so let's just go with these both for now. So that's where that's going to sit. So that's going to sit there, and then there's a clamp either side. So we need to know the center line, get the clamps on, and put the hole positions in there. So let's go cut some metal. I'm sure the internet knows all about hacksawing metal, so we won't record that. Alright, so next port of call. We've got one cut filed shaft here. It's really important because of how tight the pulley is. Where are we? Pulley. That edge doesn't have any burrs or anything on it, so we'll just clean it up. Now, if you're really pedantic, I just don't have a good set of jaws. You wouldn't ordinarily do this. Pretend internet you're not seeing that. I'm sure there will be comments like you wouldn't believe. Well, no. I think there actually won't be too many comments telling me a better way of doing this. For anybody watching this, my day job is, well, now behind Zoom, but dealing with people and computers all day long. Well, people and software, albeit in the engineering construction industry. But I don't do this for a job, so I could be doing it all completely wrong. That's what's cool. You learn how to do things better. Right. Oh, sorry. Okay, so all going well. Ooh, look at that. That's actually, you can tell, so these are the same shafts, new batch of pulleys, and there's a bit more tolerance on there. In fact, there's quite a lot more tolerance on there. So, next part of core, so we just transfer our markings over. So, where are we? There we go. Alright, so we're going to transfer our markings over with our trusty, super accurate, see, I haven't got these quite right, it's okay, so one output there, so nobody's going to be looking at the back of this. Alright, so Now I have to get the right position for this on the shaft, and learning a lesson from last time, I'm going to try and make all the bolts, all the grub screw locations all line up so it's nice and easy to deal with. So we'll just pause that there, we'll come back with these marked up and then figure out a better way than last time of drilling these. So gotta get them, yeah, I'll come to that in a second. Alright, I'll be back. Alright, so gotta get this on the shaft, grub screw location, and so I figured out I can actually get this, which is good because it makes the install a lot easier, and get that, whoop, there we go, flush on the end of the shaft. So I just mark my 0 point. So I'm deciding the best way of doing this, but I think what I'm actually going to do, let's see if I can just ever so gently. I wish I had a better, like this is the problem with these projects, is you always wish you had a certain type of tool that you don't have. So we'll line that up there. It's probably a better way of doing this, but let's get that right up. That's flush. I'm going to wince when I do this because I don't really want to hit the end of it, but oh, that's not what I want to do. Put this one right there. Yeah, that's interesting because this is now. This is not going to work this way. Let's try another way. Let's go and actually measure it. So we want that. I guess the technical drawings would tell us this anyway. Oh, bang on 15 millimeters. There's totally better ways of doing it. Now we'll do it. If you're a professional, this would take half as much time. Scoring on the end of the shaft there. It's right there. With shafts that are rotating all over the place. Okay, we got the beginnings of a pilot hole. So let's just make that a bit better. Won't do it like that. What I'm going to do is now need to do that 90 degrees because that's got another whole 90 degrees. Oh, probably didn't get to see half of that. So let's. There we go. All right. So I've got that. going to try doing this by eyesight. It's not the end of the world if it's not like within even possibly up to half a mil out, because a hole is slightly bigger than the, oh shit, actually easier said than done. The grub, actually, let's drill it first, make sure we're in the right spot, and then we'll come back to doing the second one. The drilling part is actually the easy-ish part. So you need a fancy drill press. Turn this up a little bit. Now, the purists would tell you that you really need some big cast iron. Oh shit! Have I lost a drill bit already? Will tell you need a big cast iron English thing made a million years ago. I've got this newer German thing that probably came out of a factory in China. That's got some really good little features that actually make life a little bit easier. You don't need a chuck key. And you've got a work light, and you've got a work laser. I like lasers. What that means is we can get stuff quite accurate. Spot on. We're not going to need oil for this bit. Be annoyed if it's a drill bit. I'm very nervous. Left it. For those that this is all a bit new, and drill a pilot hole first, because then when we go and put a bigger bit on it, it's going to stop the bit wandering all over the place. So all going well, it's going to just get stuck in that little hole and do its thing. Unless, of course, aha, I found it. But let's just see. Shouldn't need to go up to the, found it. That's good. I wonder what the YouTube thinks of me talking to myself. I know my other half is getting worried as I get older about talking to myself. That's okay. Alright, so I'm just going to make sure. Yep, that's the one I want. I'm going to go up to that size. So it's a 5mm. So let's put this one in first. This time around, you need a little bit of oil. Should use cutting oil, but this oil seems to be just fine. Okay, so we're just got to clean up the edge of this hole. So I've drilled the other hole. So sure that's good. Cool. So that's sweet. Now, next part, we have our push rod arm, and so that's got to, first one, because of the elephant's foot when they're printing, that's a little bit tight, so we'll just put it in the other direction. I need to see this happen. That'll get that on. So that's going to sit, actually, let's get the right direction. That's going to sit on there, so roughly in the middle of the arm there, well, in that position. And then a dude by name De-burr came up with this really cool technique. So the problem is that needs to hold on to the shaft and grip, right? And a grub screw through here is just not even going to remotely come close to doing it. But what you can do is put on one of these little clampy things. Now that clamping pressure on here isn't that much. So let's see, there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a grub screw, and I've got a particular, my box of bits here. So got these guys, M5 by 10s, and they're actually going to go in a little hole that we're going to make. So we've got to make the hole and then tap it. So we'll start off, so we do that on 2 of these, so one on either side, bolt them into the arm, and then we've got to drill pilot holes, and then take this off, and then actually drill out the hole, and then put the grub screw in, and we should be good. So let's take that all apart, and we'll just show you this bit. So cinch that up. I'm going to get a nice big flat surface. So De-burr, you're a legend. This is such a cool trick. It holds up really well. So let's we need our little pilot hole. I can't remember how I clamped this last time. So I think yeah, that's roughly how we did it. Oh, internet, you're going to give me shit for this part. Let's try not to hurt ourselves, shall we? So what I really need is a thing. You can get these special little jaws for you can get these special jaws that do this, and they only cost $50 odd, so I should really get a set. Okay. Alright, let's see. I should really get a set. This is, actually, I'm doing this the hard way. No. Put a finger in there, because you're going to hurt yourself. So let's try that. A little pilot hole. Looking good. And we need to remember what we actually used for tapping this with. I can't remember what, because technically the tap for an M5 I think is a 4.2. What we're going to do is use a 4, and if it isn't big enough we will just put the 5 through it, but you can't make holes smaller. So throw that back in there. Try to be a bit more organised about things. Will I make it to the end of this battery? Oh, we're at 13%. So I'm going to try and get at least one of these made. That is like butter. So we've got our hole, and now we're going to tap it. Let me find where our tap set is. Right here. So for those following along at home that haven't done this before, we need an M4.5, M4, no, it's not as an M5, so we need our M5 tap. Oh, the one that looks like it's had aluminium on it. Look at that. I didn't clean it up before I put it away. So let's give a quick wipe down. So got this thing that cuts the shreds, and tap handle. We'll throw this in the vise. Need a little bit of cutting oil. Okay, I'm probably just gonna make it before the battery runs out. I'd say this tap handle quality is pretty average. Let's try that one. Learn something every day. Right. Battery's still going. Phone's just about ready to give up. And you get the picture. And after this is done, we have one lovely little M5 hole we can put a grub screw through. That's done. Oh, look at that. And we're done. Bingo. Job done. And battery dead. So, all right, that concludes this part of the video. All right, so next step of the process, we've drilled and tapped these. I realized, and I don't know why I did it the second time around, you don't actually need to file that, you can just go straight on the top, but anyway, making more work for himself. And what we want to do is, we could only see how messy this workbench was. Horrified. I'm horrified. Usually very tidy, but what we're going to do is we're going to mount the clamps onto this. There's a way of doing it that makes life a whole lot easier later on. So what we do is we grab that. We're not going to tighten it up fully, so I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit. So, oops. Bits in. Actually, that's right. Gonna learn after you've done a few of these, like what that process is. So, right on the shaft, so that just helps locate that in the right spot. So we'll start with that one. So that's kind of located in the right spot. Thumb over, so like that. Throw that in. I sincerely hope somebody is actually going to follow and try and build one of these. Okay. Get the other side on. Oh. gives you an idea of how strong this is, right? This ABS. So make sure that's spinning on the shaft. So we'll take that off, turn it around, and we'll do the other side. Pay special attention, make sure that it's pointing up on the outside. The curved part, the curved part is on the inside facing the seat. So we'll get that one on there. Same deal all over again. There's a reason we're doing this like this. Is because locating the grub screw positions on the shaft is really tricky. And I'm sure a metal worker would actually, my friend Bruce, if he's watching this video, he's going to go and tell me how to do it properly. But those of us that don't know how to do it properly, just make stuff up as we go. So I've got my kick-ass pushrod arm. Well, that looks pretty industrial, right? That's going to be oriented around like that. Now, we use those to locate it roughly, so I can actually see. Get some nasty swarf out of there. You'd be surprised, you can actually see the Sharpie marks with good enough light through here. I could see them throughout there. Yeah, that's fine. Again, it doesn't have to be super accurate, just enough that we can get it roughly in the right position. Or I could just measure it. You know what, for once I'll actually just measure something. Double check with this one. Oh, cut myself, YouTube. That's not surprising, is it? All right. This happens a lot here. Okay. This is going to look really funny when you play it back afterwards. Might have to have a band-aid break in a second. Yes, I'm going to have a band-aid break. I'll be back. Hi Okay, so Band-Aid break, there we go. We've got that in the right position, and to make life a whole lot easier on ourselves, I'm going to mark that, taking care to get both edges. Lord knows that's going to help you later on. Yeah, that was the problem. Yeah, so problem is I've got to somehow drill pilot holes and get them accurate. Now I can do this one of two ways. I can do what I did last time, which sort of worked, or I can do this the accurate way. Because what I did last time was I ran the... Actually, this might actually work better this time. So I just ran the drill straight down. And the problem is you've got to be absolutely dead on the center of that hole. And if you measure it, you've also got to be dead on, which in theory measuring it's okay, that's the easy part, but getting it dead on with the marking punch is a lot easier said than done. So I'm going to try method number 2 first. If you get it off, so that way is probably the worst if the holes are too far apart, because it'll try and, as the grub screw pulls in, actually separate this from the arm, and I did that on one before and I actually just ended up making a slightly wider arm and trying to fix the rod. So let's give it a go like this and be ultra careful when we're drilling the holes. So let's see. Mission in tonight's videos is to get one side fully assembled. So let's see if we can make that happen. Use our little brush somewhere in here. We've got a brush, not the brush. We get in trouble using the wrong brush. So this time, see Bruce and guys, I listen to you. Put this in there. A nice surface to drill on, and my next life I'm going to have an absolutely massive wood chop. This huge bench space, because this is really... Okay, alright, so so funnily enough, it's actually, that's pretty flat there, so let's kind of listening, you're looking at this going, are you kidding me? You have to do this? Yes, you have to do this. So we'll get this as close as we can, just above there. Okay, I'm sure there is a much better way of doing this, but I don't know how, so I'm taking my chances. See, holding the rod by itself in there, it slips around, so you've actually, the arm gives it a lot of, actually, I know what I'll do now that I'm looking at it like that. That makes it probably about even. the battle is getting the drill bit exactly in the center of the hole. The one that really matters. Well, that'll be perfect. See if we can repeat the same magic on the side. That distance this way is the most critical one. The other one would just be a bit of annoyance, but this one's the critical one. Do you really want to build in GC? Okay. And I just realized what I did wrong. Shit. Okay, so my shaft moves slightly, so you get to witness a mistake in action. So I will correct this by doing it again. This time we do it. Okay. So you fix your mistakes. Yeah, I make mistakes so you don't have to. Enough on that. So we rotate that. You've got to think about these two holes here, whether you've got access to, which I have, whether you've got access, no you don't, because when it's in the back of the seat, so this is the plane of the seat, and I have access to get at it. Yes, I should do, because whether this sits on, and those are the grub screw holes. So you can get at that one, but to get at that one, you have to, depending on where it is, that should be fine. Should be fine. We'll swear and curse later on if it's not. So let's try that again. I'll leave that in. The magic of YouTube, you can just edit out your mistakes. Okay. So we'll mark that again. And then what we really should do this time, go back to there, and we drill and countersink drill one side, put a grub screw in it, hold it tight, and then we do that side. Or we don't do that at all. We actually, through our mess of what was I thinking wrong? Can hold it tight on the shaft because these have nice little clamps. Of course. So let's tighten it up. Okay, everybody saw that one coming, right? Let's try that all over again. I swear this is one of the most fiddly parts of doing a G-seat. It's getting these damn bolt holes right. Okay. Now, do I have any good sim rig building karma today? So we have to undo all this, as you wouldn't be surprised, because we do an undo, do an undo. So we end up with somewhat semi-accurate holes. So we now need to put our 5mm bit back to that. Run the file over the edges, over the catch. A moment of truth. I can see this. Turn that around. So we go to that. And grab the grub screw and right. So it's for my bikes, but it is absolutely awesome. Usually has the size you want. A close-up of the moment of truth. There we go. You can see how that just locked in as I found the right spot. It's a little bit concerning that that's off from where I thought it would be. Yeah. Well, that's probably as good as it's going to get. So it wasn't quite right, but it's good enough. We'll try the measuring method for the next one. Tighten all the clamps on it. Okay, so we have one shiny push rod arm, and we have one of these. So we'll. Oh, just realised I'm going to have to go out and buy some more grub screws. The Mitre 10 will be wondering why the heck they've been going through so many grub screws. So replace the standard grub screws that come with these things because they're like these tiny little 5mm long jobs that just don't do anything. Because we're putting them under so much load, you need something a bit more stiff and sturdy. So throw that one through. And then right at the end, it might be a bit, there we go. A bit stiff at the last bit of travel, the last few threads. Shit. This one in. We're determined between either the battery or put that one on. Okay, pause that there. All right, so next step is I've got to mount all of this lot in there. Half cleaned up my workbench, get some better light, because I tried to start doing this last night and it was terrible. So yeah, let's get to it. So what I've done is I've laid out the components. So we've got the push rod arm, and let's go down the bottom. Got the bearing carriers on either end, which holds it in place. Pulley, main drive pulley, idler pulleys, the belt, the pinion, gearbox, and servo. So let's get started. I think I'll do these mechanicals first, give me some space to work, and then put this on. So let's get to it. Let's try putting that, oops, up so you can see what I'm doing. Oh, that's much better than doing it on the floor than what we had before. And in the aim of improvement, I'll get that a bit closer. So, first thing we need this in here. We've got two of these little bearing carriers, and see right on the edge, they come with these little grub screws that just hold the shaft in place. So you just have to undo them a little bit first time you go put them on. So we need a couple of M6 screws, bolts, right? And learning my lesson from first putting this together. Actually, I was being lazy, so I didn't have washers on it. So we'll throw that in first. It makes it easier, theoretically easier to put these on. So these ones sit on the inside and the back ones can sit on the outside. Because of the amount of vibration that comes through this, I found you actually need lock nuts on this thing. So we'll go put lock nut on there. Theoretically put a lock nut on there, yep. And another washer. Yeah, I have to redo all the components on the back because I was being quick and dirty and wasn't using washers and wasn't using lock nuts, and things come loose and they rattle. So let's do it all properly now. On there, and then this one on the back. Yeah, on the back looks better. And same deal again. A couple of these. Did it again. Trying to get more organized with my parts, so I really should have a separate bin for M6 lock nuts and M6 standard nuts. I'll throw that one on. It's quite tedious, some of these things. They must look tedious on YouTube, but hey, you get an appreciation of how long it takes to put one of these things together, which in the grand scheme of things is not actually that long when you think about there's dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of design, and then the actual assembly process is only probably a couple of hours for the powerpack themselves. And you can see I've got actually a reasonable amount of space clearance around the shaft. I purposely designed that so I gave quite a bit of clearance, so you had a little bit of wiggle room. The bearing is what keeps it all in place. So Oh, I really do need my socket set. Way back. Make things easier. It is a little bit fiddly to get it centered. Okay, nice and tight. So, got the shaft in. Play that. All right. So, that might actually be. Let's just make sure that's not rubbing on the edge of the. That little tiny just in there might actually be rubbing on the edge there. So let's. Okay. All right. So next order of business is still not really happy with that, but hang that all. Must be something else going on. So we'll get this on. Now I've already put the grub screws in it, and just take it closer. So you can see there on the end of the shaft, I had marked where the grub screw position is, which is very handy. So let's tighten this thing up. You can see there I've already got the initial position. Now, after about half an hour of use, I have to come back and retighten these because it will slip on the shaft a little bit. So it's just a thing you have to do. All right, so that's on. Next step is idlers go on last. So we'll actually, just before we do anything further, we are going to put the threaded rod in for the push rod. Now, I hadn't actually had that out in my parts list. So we need, so let's bring the camera back. Oh, I'm already making a mess. All right, so we need some push rods. We need 4 of these bad boys. So, and typical style, very cheap off AliExpress, and they will make do. At some stage later, I will find some proper motorsport ones, because these have a wee little problem with them. In that, okay, so you can see that ball moving around. There's actually a little bit of play in there. Now, a little bit of play gets magnified. Now, I'm not sure that you're really going to notice it, but what it means, shit, that wasn't right. What it means in practice is you get a little bit of play coming through the panel, and what that can mean is the extra fine details. Things like ABS, when you feel like coming on, you might lose a tiny bit of that detail. So it's a good thing to have everything have as little play as possible, which is why I designed the crazy hinge mechanism as opposed to just using something like a standard piano hinge. So yeah, got these. So there's no particular length they have to be. That all gets adjusted in the software, well, in your initial home position anyway. So we'll just look at me. Okay, yeah, so it's roughly about like that. So find where are we? There we go. Take my time on the bottom, because it is on the bottom and everything is not quite as accessible on the top. So get this set up. Alright, from the start, where we set these ones to, make sure all of them are set to that. Actually, I can just tighten that up on the rig itself. So that's ready. So that's one. And this doesn't have to be picture perfect accuracy. There's a little bit of play. So the downside is there's a little bit of play in the rod ends. The upside is there's a little bit of play. So don't have to get it perfect. A millimeter or two accuracy is good enough for these. Go. Sometimes you just want a third hand. Okay. So that's 1 and 2. And then up here, we need to put in shafts in through here. So let's go do that. Now, I knew that was going to be the case. So things you should have done when you had it all apart in the first place, or I should actually modify the design. My bigger bits for that should fit in. Brilliant. Okay, so that's in. It's going to be ready to connect on that side. So then these guys are just going to go on there like that and through the hole to the other things. Simple. Okay, so that's ready. Next step, let's get the let's get this thing going. Okay, so next step, done that. Okay, yes, on the bench is to get this working on that. So first thing is I'm going to put this on, and to do that I have to grease the shafts. So just because it's quite a tight fit, may some distance future want to take it off. Actually need to use my pen trick Sharpie and mark where the keyhole slot is. Not using a keyhole, we're just going to use our favorite grub screws. Again, not, as you've seen a lot with this design, not perfect, not ideal, but does the job. So let me line that up. Oh, look at that, that was much better than previous ones. Ooh, it's going to make life a lot easier. So we'll throw a little grub screw in there. We can use our little M5 by 10 jobby on the side with the keyhole slot, and then on the other side we just use a regular one. So go find one of those later on. So we'll put that in. Okay, cool. So I can adjust that later on. And then, so gearbox mounts onto our lovely, tasty wee servo. So this is the S60 ST servo, but bit smaller than your regular 90 STs on the SFX platform. And so what it's got inside is a clamping collar, and you just take the plugs out, and this one's only got one hex Allen bolt in it. So line that up. Decide, very important, all these little details. So decide, do we want this to match up with that on that side so it's visible on the outside? I think we do. We can always change it later on. So actually, let's see. There's all sorts of theories about shaft mounting. Went on quite quick, easy. About whether you have clean shafts or dirty shafts. Oil in the shaft. Now, actually, what you're supposed to do, as I've been reading up and researching about clamping pressures, is with slightly oily or dirty shafts, the oil film acts as a bit of a lubricant. There's a particular type of film I think you need. Oh man, just made a whole mess there. A particular type of lubricant that, as the clamping collar squeezes down, stops any stiction on the shaft and therefore creates a tighter clamping pressure, which who knew? You'd think the opposite, but that is actually the case. So there was only one there. I hope like hell it's going to work. Slipping, it's a big problem. All right, so that's on, and then it came with a couple of little screws, but it did not come with a couple of little washers. So it's got my little screws mounted on there. Let's go find the Allen key set for these guys. I think I might actually have it here. Yeah, and let's go find some washers. While I was at it, I found the grub screws, the smaller grub screws. So for such a powerful thing, to have these tiny little M4 bolts is crazy. But hey, that's what works. I'm making sure. Oh, actually, I do have another bolt. Got to. Oh no, that's the same one. Cool. All right. Yep. Flip around to the back side. Diagonally opposite. See that better. In my original first iteration with these, I actually thought the interface between the servo and the gearbox shaft was slipping. So I had a friend who's a master metal worker, hi Bruce, make something that helped key out of here into the clamping collar. But in the end, I think it actually just turned out that the belt was slipping, and it just felt like the shaft was slipping, just because of the noise. It made a very metallic mechanical noise. Sorry, metallic mechanical noise, which to me said couldn't have been the belt, because the belt's a nice big rubbery thing. But in the end, it was the belt, which is quite surprising. Okay, so let's do these up. I'm going to make it before the gimbal runs out of juice. I probably am. We're on a race. Okay, so that's in. Save. Doing things again. I'm going to at least get the grub screw in partially. And do it tight. Okay, so that needs to go on. So next step. Let's get you closer. All right, so that's just, it goes in, and then this is going to go on. Right, and do a couple of things. We need to get our bolts that we're going to put on this ready at the weighting. So one of those, and we need, how much way we do this, and do it that way. We'll be fine. We don't need a washer on the back side of them. We do need a handful of these. We'll start with just quickly cinching them up by hand manually, and then replacing them with lock nuts. So, got the belt. That's got to go on. And then there we go. Go that way. Just have a look. Ooh. Actually, we're going to have to go the other way. Otherwise, that is going to hit the belt. So, this is where you need the apprentice in the workshop. Just need to get one on, and then everything else is going to be all. There we go. Everything else will be a whole lot easier after that one. because that was off balance. I will go around and replace those with lock nuts afterwards. Okay, so you get the general idea. Let's go on. I'm hurrying so I don't run out of battery juice. Gimbal's making a big blinky red light at me. Put that one on. This is going to be even easier than the back ones because I can get at this side. The fourth and final nut quite. Okay, alright, so that's all on. So that's a nice little amount. And then we've got a bit of slack here. And we've got to find the right position. So do that. And we got our very tricky idler mount set up. So got these idler pulleys, got an 8mm bearing. That goes in the center. And then take a bolt. And get the right bad for fair shot. So I'm trying something new on the front one with these big flat mudguard washers. So I don't know if that's a thing overseas where they call them mudguard washers, but here they do. So just to keep the bearing a bit more stable. So we'll go around and can I get it? Ah, yes, I can. Look at that. So I've got it in the right position. And I can get that tightened up if I can find my Allen key. I need to do a better job at keeping that. Okay, this must be frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to do. So for those that had RC cars and the kids, it's not too far different. Come back and tighten it up later. Famous last words. Oh, shit. See, adding that servo has changed the center of gravity while it's sitting on the bench. So we'll put our last fancy washer on. Up. Yeah. That's where times just going to the regular old hardware store to find stuff is better than cruising AliExpress and just going after work just to see what they have available. And it's turned up, so where's the last one? That's how you get mechanicals working, just like that. So and then the last thing you've got to do is, now that that's all on and in place, just find your really tiny, where are my Allen keys? Really need those little tiny Allen keys. I don't think that's not the one I want. I'm a master at losing stuff in my garage. Anyway, come back to it. There's a tiny little grub screw in there. You just want to tighten that in so that holds the shaft in place. Will stop any lateral movement. Again, there's not a lot of load on it. It's naturally getting held in place by that mechanism, but there you go. There's some shiny aluminium pulleys and into the shaft, and it's looking quite nice and industrial. Look at that. Ooh, yeah, that's quite exciting, isn't it? All right, so yeah, next step will just be to put the, I'm scared of this thing toppling over. Put the push rods through into mount on that little bracket in the back there, just like that, and that's job done. Then we'll go do the other side and then wire it up and put it all back together again. So we'll put it back in the rig. So there we go. That's tonight's adventures.